Happy 3rd of July. One more day. One more day until we get to the 4th of July. As an American citizen, I can appreciate the freedoms that I get to partake of, but I'm also grateful for just a day to chill and to enjoy some time with you guys today. As we continue our series at Plymouth, I am reminded of the incredible achievements and progress that we've made in terms of flight simming in general. The graphics, the flight models, the adventures, and I am grateful for both the communities as well as the progress that we've made technologically speaking. Grateful to be able to create airports and hoping to turn this into something successful in the future. Only the Lord knows right now, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. In the meantime, sit down, strap in, and get ready for some more scenery modding today. And hopefully one more step towards my next payware release. This is for my good friend Eric Flight, but this is also for the general aviation flight simming community as a whole. And hopefully we'll see what the next few months and maybe next few years will bring. I didn't think I'd be making scenery for a year now on Twitch, but here we are. And even though the road ahead is a little bit uncertain with FS 2024 coming out, I'm not worried about it. In fact, I look forward to it. Welcome aboard. Let's get started. Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. It is I, DIGI Driver, welcoming you to your Monday, July 3rd, 2023. We are literally a day away from the 4th of July festivities. If you live in the States, happy 4th of July. I hope that yours will be a great day. We are in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let me find the thing that hides the browser window. There we are. And we're going to do some more scenery dev. I don't have my my overlay browser, or at least the window is above it. There we go. I could use the overlay browser, but then I think I'd be hiding some of the views. So I'm going to keep that there, and we're going to unmute the flight sim because that would be good to do. There we go. Let's jump over to Plymouth and get started. We got some work to do, and I need to find some videos, 1 or 2 videos, so I can catch up and see what's going on. Or at least I can take a look at the progress that I've made and see what needs to be done. So give me just a moment, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the last video that was sent. And then I'll take a look at the next one. We got some stuff to do, that's for sure. But give me a teensy bit. There we go. And I'll take a look at the comments that I left. Okay, so the last time I went to Plymouth, we were going to take a look at fixing things like taxiways. I think for the most part, we've widened all of them. But there is some stuff that we have to do. And I do have my MSFS satellite imagery replacement mod in place and running, and we should now be able to jump to Plymouth and get to it. No, we're not going to show up with a 787. I flew that yesterday. Let's park a smaller plane there, shall we? That's more like it. A DA-40. And no, it's not an Air France plane. Okay. That should be what we need. Let me just choose it again, just so I know we're not spawning on a runway, because that bothers me. And off we go. Hopefully you're having a good afternoon and on your way to a great rest of your week. If you're working today, I hope that this provides you some measure of entertainment and insight, especially if you're interested in learning how to do scenery dev yourself. Now, this is probably not going to be the best video to watch if you want to learn an incredible amount, like through a teaching or a tutorial based approach to scenery development, even rapid development, since we're going to be fixing some things that need to be fixed in order for me to release my pairware version of Plymouth Municipal Airport. Let's load the sim, or excuse me, load the scenery. Won't take more than a few moments, hopefully, and then you're going to see the scenery load in, which we've been working on for the past several months. I am running with developer mode turned on, and you'll need to enable that from the options menu, the general options, if you're going to develop scenery. So let's go ahead and load in the editor. I'm not getting the best frame rates right now. That's okay. I am running at almost 4K. No, 2K. Yeah, I don't have a beefy enough PC yet to do 4K flight simming. That's okay. We do have Google Maps imagery that we are basing our design off of. This is certainly not a 100% authentic or absolutely accurate rendition of the airport, but this is how far we've come. We've come pretty close so far. Now, when we got started, I used Bing imagery to help me design the taxiways and structure of the airport. When the first review came out, I learned the taxiways were not wide enough. So I needed to remake all these lines and start over. I'm just giving the taxiways a once over right now, but for the most part, as far as I can tell, I do believe the taxiways are correct. I've even got that circle thingy, which isn't a compass rose per se. I think this is to help you align your compass with true north or something like that. I forget. And we still got quite a bit of work to do. We've got a lot of default buildings to replace, and we've got a beacon that needs to be replaced as well. So I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of work in Blender this afternoon to show you guys the extent of the work that we've put in to the replacement beacon tower. But there's also going to be some things we're going to add into the scenery as well. And I'm debating using some slightly enhanced stock objects to help us finish the design and development of this airport. Because I am using stock objects available with the base sim in order to actually do some of the things that I haven't either learned how to do yet or don't feel like doing right now. So let me get myself set up and we should be just about prepped. But yes, in case you are wondering, or you're wondering why I'm at an airport and I'm not flying a plane, I am a scenery developer. I was streaming Microsoft Flight Simulator and other sims for the purpose of flying, fake planes to real destinations. And I did that for years using sims like Flight Simulator X Steam Edition as well as X-Plane. But then I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I think I need to take a break from this because this isn't as fun as I'd like it to be. I did, and eventually figured out that I could probably start doing scenery development like I am now. And I started doing it. I started doing it more, and over the course of about a year, I've come away with a bigger respect. Well, a bigger appreciation for the efforts that are taken to create airports, as well as actually releasing some on FlightSim.to. So if you don't know, or if you're unaware, you can go to flightsim.to and look me up under DIGI driver, and I have more than a few airports available for download right now. I also just recently uploaded Gaston's Airport, my first version, just something that I worked on yesterday, and you can watch the VOD to see most of the work required to actually release an airport. And essentially, it's available for download right now, and you can install it and replace the default scenery, which does have, a runway you can take off and land at, which is just a grass strip. But I think it only had one start position, and it didn't have much detail in the way of the roads or the buildings that were there. There's still a ways to go in terms of adding details to that place, but that's a journey that I think is going to take me probably into fall of this year in between other projects that I've committed myself to. So, with that said, let's go ahead and pardon the noise as I get myself ready, and let's go ahead and get jumped into doing the work here. So, I still need to build a terminal building. I'm working on the beacon tower. I've recolored the taxi markings on the west ramp, and I need to rework the green mini hangar buildings. There's probably going to be a lot of pictures I'm going to be looking at or referencing. I'm just going through my comments to see if there's anything that I can do for the base scenery before I jump into 3D development. I moved or removed fuel trucks. I removed the obvious or bright colors from the helipad positions. And I think I tweaked a little of the trees that are outside the airport. I can probably work on fencing today to get the fencing adjusted a little bit. And let me see. We added yellow guard pylons to the entry gate at the not the main terminal entrance, but like the I guess the pilot's entrance here. So we added some, so if a car is about to hit them, it'll hit one of these instead. They're basic, they're not textured. I just need to figure out a way to make them better. And while we're here, if I am going to keep this car the way it is, I think I'm going to replace it with a sharper texture car. And we've talked about this before. It's for me, it's literally a question of like, hey, I want to see better textures on a vehicle, and I would rather do that than have more polygons describing the vehicle. So I think it's car 01 black. It's going to be traffic because the traffic I think uses fewer polygons. And there we go. Now it's going to look weird right now because the other vehicle that I deleted for some reason doesn't go away. And you'll find that when you're creating scenery in MSFS, especially if the scenery either exists on your hard drive or you've been working on it lately, it's not going to sometimes go away by itself. And for me, that's okay. Like, it's a thing. So I'm not worried about car models. I'm not going to adjust them too much right now. Eventually, I might use a different library if I choose to. But if I do create a library, it's going to be my own creation, and I'm going to use it with all my sceneries going forward. So that car's fine. What else was I missing? Entry gate. Oh, that's right. This is also going to be something I'll need to do before it's released. The signs are maybe a little bit wider than they look to be right now. So I'm either going to scale them up to be a little bit wider, or I'll stretch them out in Blender. And that might be something I work on this week. These signs light up, by the way, at night. And ground markings, apron textures. That reminds me, the ground markings on the north parking spaces I probably need to adjust. So I'm probably going to focus on that this afternoon too. Yeah, more hangars to be modeled for aviation, for Yankee Aviation, and we got rid of the green centerline lights on taxiways because they're not there at the airport. And I need to add some other things like weather machines for the area by the east ramp. North runway taxiways. Yeah, yeah. So there we go. There are a few things we can do. One of the first things I can work on is something which is a smaller project, which is probably not going to take up as much time. It's going to be fairly quick. I'm going to add a fence, and I think what I need to do is to get rid of these buildings. These buildings were added by the sim, but these are actually, as far as I can tell, based on what Eric Flight told me, cranberry bogs. So these don't need a building on top of them. So let's go ahead and eliminate them right now. Yeah. I am going to select polygon and we're going to exclude these. It's a relatively easy process. Pick polygon from the objects menu and then click on one click placing so that you can left click once, see your tiny little, the tiniest of like little red crosses, and then you're going to hold down the left control key, and then select the area where you have things you want to exclude. So I can make it as simple as this. Press enter and call this cranberry bog wait, cranberry bog building exclude poly 1. And then in buildings, we click on here, we say exclude all, and those buildings are gone. And then we just check to see if any other buildings exist. And these might be buildings that I model at some point in the future, maybe a 2.0 or a 3.0 upgrade to this place to really kind of model the area around it. These two buildings, I think, don't need to be here either, so we'll get rid of them. And it looks like I was correct. So there we go. Turn off one click placing, call this cranberry bog building exclude poly 2, and we do the same thing. Exclude all gets rid of the default buildings that were added by the sim, and it goes back to looking a bit more realistic. I don't think these are solar panels. I think these are just containers, which I might build at some point. But again, I think that's going to be a question of whether or not I choose to actually create them. But this is a little bit better than it was before. Okay, so next thing I can do is create fence to surround these solar panels, which would be nice. Maybe add a few bits of equipment, maybe a random pickup truck, which means there should be a gate somewhere to let the vehicles in. And based on the satellite imagery, I'm probably going to say the gate is about here. So we're going to go into scenery and we're going to choose fence. And to make absolutely sure, we're going to go into FS base and choose the fencing from there. Oh, hello, Eric Flight. Welcome aboard. My apologies if you are experiencing ad time. Yeah, I've said this many times before. If I had a way to tell Twitch, hey, listen, I don't care about 30 or 45 cents on a stream, literally just take the ads away, period. But they got to make money. Welcome back, my friend. Folks, if you do not know Eric Flight, please go check out Eric Flight's channel right now. Eric Flight is a very good friend of the stream and somebody who has been instrumental in helping me craft what is the Plymouth Municipal Airport project, which you're looking at on stream right now. Again, great friend, somebody that's put a critical eye on this place to make it better so that we can present as much detail as feasible, more or less, for a 1.0 release. You have been instrumental. Wow. Like this is truth. This is absolutely truth. So let me grab some fence. I'm probably going to make it the same kind of fence that we've been working with, which is probably going to be, I think, fence grilling B, middle or little. Let's see what this looks like on the ground. I haven't worked with fencing to wrap stuff in a little while, so you'll pardon my not my hesitancy, but my rustiness. But there we go. And we're going to add this. We're going to move this to fencing. And actually, we're going to move this to assets outside airport. And then we're going to create a fence category here. And there we go. All right. Pardon the noise, folks. Let me just adjust something. Okay, hopefully now it should be a bit quieter. Sorry about that. So this is a fence which is going to surround one of the groups of solar power panels that are for the cranberry bogs and the equipment and just the stuff going on. I do like me some cranberry juice, so it is appreciated. All right. So there's basically two ways to place fence in Microsoft Flight Sim. You can either create custom fence and use a satellite overlay to help you place the fence where it should be for an airport, and then you can place fence for objects as basically one big just fence drop, or you can place fence manually like I'm doing right now. It's kind of a six of one, half a dozen of the other issue. Because whether you're using something like Blender or 3D Studio Max, or you're taking default fence and you're placing it in Microsoft Flight Sim, you do have to place fence a piece at a time. Now, do I wish it was better? I do. And I think that I'm hoping at least that with FS 2024 on the horizon now, there will be a better way of doing things like placing fencing. You know, I experimented earlier this year with things like, what was I going to say? I've experimented earlier this year with making scenery in X-Plane, and I think what you do is you just like draw where you want the fence to be, and it basically gets created for you, which is superb. But yeah, I'm not even gonna lie at all. I really would like that to be better. Mm, how come the portal has barbed wire? I didn't notice that with the other ones I had before. Let me double check something. Did I pick the right one? There we go. I think this is the one that I wanted. So hold on. Looks like there were two different types. Let's see. Is this one the one I want? Add it, and yes, this is much better. I mean, cranberries are valuable. I get it. Let me take a look at the heading. We're going to copy heading data so that we can get these things to point in the same direction. That's better. Let me just double check my volumes right now. You guys should be hearing you guys should be hearing in-game audio. I don't usually play sounds. I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't usually play music because I haven't figured out how to create another channel for music, which I can like, turn off. I can use like the Twitch soundtrack stuff, but I think what happened was there was a change to the policy for being able to create and set up videos that used it. So there's something weird where it's like if you choose to if you choose to if you choose to create videos using the Twitch soundtrack stuff, you have to promise you're not going to export it to YouTube. Yeah, yeah. I did that for a while when I was like just streaming and just flying, and I don't know. I guess I just I got to a place where I was like, I don't want to think too hard about this. I'm just not going to do it. So I just cranked the sim volume up and then I let the sim sounds be my soundtrack. But that's where I am right now anyway. I'm going to rotate this a touch because I need to get back on the line. And that's good enough. Yeah. Yeah. I ran into a problem. I want to say I ran into a problem back right around or just past Christmas where I was streaming and I was listening to, copyright free Christmassy music, and one of my videos didn't get copyright struck. It just the VOD was muted because they said, hey, portions of music were included that were like found to be in violation of copyright. So I double checked. I checked my video. I sent a notification to I guess a support notification. I said, hey, this is a copyright free track. Here's the link. And I was using it for the stream. And then they removed that, which is great. I mean, I'm not making that many videos, so it was easy for me to find that, but it might be more of a challenge for somebody else that's going to be making several dozen videos in one shot. But so be it. Now, can I select, oh, so it's choosing the poly. Which one is it? Okay. Now I think I'm going to start selecting multiple of these and start moving them in unison because this could take a while. If we duplicate a larger section, then we'll be able to cover more ground. The only problem, like I said before, is when you start moving multiple sections of anything around, you start losing precision. So you really have to be patient with the things. And teensy visual imperfections, I'm more than happy to live with. Also, you'll notice I'm duplicating many of the little sections of fence because when you start using, I think, medium and in some cases large swaths of fence, as the fence height adjusts itself to the terrain, it'll be easier for things that are larger to have bigger and bigger gaps between the fence and the ground. So that's something that I do for the explicit case of making a contour to the terrain better, because I usually don't disable snap to ground and then sink the fence into the ground in many places. I usually just let the fence take care of itself. Okay. That's not bad. I'm going to probably cap this fence, not cap it, but turn it, and then move that into position. Gotta adjust this a little bit more. I think that might work. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. The Maverick Mike, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. We are doing scenery development. We are making a fence to wrap the solar panels that are here just outside of runway 33, if I remember. Yeah, so the airport's back here, but we're doing a little bit of fence work to wrap this up and maybe add some additional objects to make this look a little bit more convincing. But welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. This is probably where I'm going stream speak. Come on, slow down, Digi. This is probably where I'm going to spend the majority of the stream. Not in this section in particular, but I'm going to be spending time making some adjustments and generally sprucing things up, because I think between today and the rest of this week, we're going to start going back to working on the 3D custom objects, which are going to really define how this airport looks. The solar panels and the fence, those are objects that are included in the sim. And for the most part, you can get, you can make things look nice. There's nothing saying you can't. But at some point, if you're going to add why am I saying more serious? If you're going to add a very unique level of detail to your sceneries, you're going to need to create your own objects. And I do that using Blender. These are included by default with the sim, which is great if you're looking to just create a basic freeware representation of an airport, and if it's your first time building an airport, or if you just want to throw something together really quickly, which will frame the way the airport's going to look. I did a few streams, yesterday's stream in particular, where I used default objects to show what the airport was more or less supposed to look like for Gaston's Airport, which is 3 Mike 0 in Lakeview, Arkansas. A pretty interesting airport with a pretty interesting story, or at least multiple stories. So if you haven't checked out my VOD and you like that kind of thing and just like having stuff playing in the background, or you want to see more about the scenery development process, go ahead and check that out too. For right now, this is the kind of detailed, right down to the post work where you have to decide how much detail you're going to put into an airport. And that's not a bad thing either. Not bad. We've already covered a good chunk of ground so far. I would say the past year has given me new perspective on what scenery can look like, and the impact that having a nice scenery has on people that spend their time in the real world at that place. There are, certain airports that for a long time they really didn't get a good representation in a sim. And eventually some do, but sometimes it's just a question of, hey, are you going to spend time making this look better? Or, is anybody else going to? It is nice when the place that you spend time in starts to look more like you recognize it. So there we go. This is looking better now. I think I can take these last two pieces and start moving them. So we're going to take these two pieces, duplicate them, and instead of moving one piece, we're moving two, and we're going to cover a little bit more ground. And again, like I said, these basically move up and down with the terrain by default. You can you can disable snap to ground so that the fences can be raised or sunken into the terrain to eliminate things. But for the most part, I don't necessarily care about um, humongous gaps as long as it's feasible to do what I want to do. Okay, now I'm going to pick four, and now we're going to cover four times as much room in one shot. And see what I mean? When you move fence, it moves with the terrain by default, which is kind of fun. It's nice to know at least you don't have to spend that much time thinking about the positioning of each piece. And when you move fence, you can use it moving the rectangles or the squares, which represent the plane that you want to move it across. Or you can use the dot, usually to help you fine tune your movements if we're talking about just placement along the ground. Okay, so far we've got almost this built, and the rest of it's probably gonna take another like 20-25 minutes. I am debating the possibility of going back to evening no mic streams with just like either sound or maybe even a teensy bit of music to cover some ground. But I also do like explaining what I'm doing to help people understand the process of senior creation. Yes, I understand it's not what I'm trying to say. I understand it's not it's not the same as, you know, grabbing a 787 or 747 and flying into New York or Kai Tak. It's not the same exciting experience, but it's interesting to me. And maybe this is helping somebody else that has an interest in creating a copy of their own airport and they want to see how somebody does something in particular. Believe it or not, I'm actually not the only person that streams scenery creation for this or any other flight sim. It's just that I haven't seen too many other people do it. There is somebody called the Duke Nukem, which actually does stream scenery development on a regular basis. And let me see if I can pull up their Twitch page so I can share them with you if you're curious. Yeah, so here we go. I'll drop the link in the chat in case you guys are curious and you want to check out this kind of thing going on there as well. So there we go. I'll hide that window. That's good because it gives me a chance to check my settings. And now we take this, we duplicate it again because now we're going to translate this and cover the gap here and rotate it a bit. I am kind of shocked to understand that we are now stepping headlong into July. And the next month after that's going to be August. I'm just utterly kind of beside myself. I'm not sure how anybody else feels about it, but this year has picked up steam, or at least the past few months have been going about at a rapid rate for me. Hopefully you guys are well. Uh, Friendly reminder to anybody that watches the channel on a regular basis, I am going to be on a brief sim and Twitch sabbatical, if you will, at the end of the month. So there's probably going to be one or two more streams on weekends this month, and the last two weekends, I think, in July, I'm gonna be off. So I will catch up with you guys on the return, and then we'll probably get back to doing what we've been doing, or what I've been doing, which is of course scenery development. And there we go. Now the next piece I'm going to adjust slightly so that we can actually move it into position. And by adjust, I mean rotate. I think there are keyboard shortcuts that let you get some of this done faster, but I forget actually, I don't know what they are. So I'm not sure if I need them in as much as I just need to be consistent. Let me just check. I think this is okay, but we'll place another piece and see if it needs to be moved. And then that should do it. Now, in case you're watching this and wondering, why do I want to use default anything in my scenery? You know, my scenery should be looking better. Don't knock default objects if they're used properly, because if you use them instead of creating highly detailed 10,000 poly things like door jambs and utensils on tables, you're going to save anyone that uses your scenery um, processing on their CPU and GPU. And these have, I think they have levels of detail baked in, which means that they're going to be able to add more and less complexity as you get closer or further away, which means that you're not going to be rendering as much unless you get closer. I still need to master how that works, because that is going to impact anybody that actually uses the scenery. And I don't want the requirements for this airport to necessitate that people buy a very powerful graphics card just because I chose to put like bump mapped and like highly reflective and multiple thousand polygon forks, or cookies, or coffee machines in rooms where in general you're not going to spend any time in unless you actually want to see that level of detail. So some folks say everything in moderation, and it kind of applies to flight simming here as well. In fact, in fact, many, 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 many years ago, some decades back when the household name for flight simulation was actually Flight Simulator 98, there were, I think there was like one person that was creating scenery that was so detailed that people were wondering, like, you know, why are you putting in so much detail for things that barely anybody's going to see? And maybe for that person, it was more a question of, like, A, why not? And B, like, I want to really, really be artistic with what I create. I don't know. Maybe that's what they wanted to do. I mean, hey, in general, I would dare say, scenery development in general is art. And you can choose if you want to download freeware airports, which airports you're going to go to, and you can choose whether or not you're going to spend time or effort to get them. So I would definitely say that it's up to you to do. All right. By the way, Eric, if you're watching, I unfortunately have yet to watch your other video. I will be taking a look at that because I'm going to be devoting more time to starting the finish line work to fix this, to wrap the scenery up. It's either going to be July or August, but I am going to be doubling down on efforts to focus on this airport and then probably make one more airport for the summer freeware series because I I kind of wasn't paying attention, and we kind of already have two airports released so far that are freeware that are on flightsim.to. A few weeks ago, actually several weeks ago, at the beginning of June, one of my friends was flying FS Economy and MSFS, and they wanted to fly out of a private airport in Oregon, but they could not because the airport literally did not exist in the simulator. So while I was watching him, I said, okay, let's see, can we find this place? So, I mean, he was there, he wanted to fly out of it, he couldn't. And then I said, okay, what does it take to actually create a brand new airport from scratch? So I decided to look into that. And then I told him literally that night, I said, hey, by the way, you've got an airport. There you go. And he was able to fly the flight. And it's not even about like saying, hey, I made an airport. I made a it was an airport in the academic sense. Like it wasn't detailed. It was just enough for him to be able to fly out of that place and finish his FS economy route. And then I went back a couple more times, adjusted some scenery objects, and made it just a little bit more inviting. SG Child, hello, welcome. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Good to see you. I am working on Plymouth Municipal Airport again. It's going okay. Today is a nice day for me to chill for a little bit. I'll probably be at this until maybe like 5:30 or 6, kind of like I did the last time. And then I will take a break, make some food, chill with Mrs. Digi, chill with the pets, and then maybe tonight I'll go flying in a sim again. I did install the Kuro mod for the 787-800 to be able to use the base 787 now, which I'm really glad happened because now we can actually use the updated model, which I believe Working Title worked on, which is just great. Now, the funny thing about it is, instead of how it used to be, where you really had to give a wide berth to the 787, and now it's like the thing corners so quickly. You you really have to be. I mean, I have to be very light on my controls because I've been lazy the past few months and have flown the game back. Fence placing. Fence placing requires patience, or at least the illusion of it. That's not bad. We can probably do 3 or 4 more of these. Let's see. Which ones are going to be selected? You and I think you. Okay, 4 is fine. We take 4, and then we can place 4 more quickly. Camera placement helps you fine tune your connections. Oh, the Kuro mod is a modification that allows you to pick a different variant of the 787 that's available for people that have the Premium Deluxe pack in Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you have the standard edition or the premium edition, you have several options in aircraft. And I think every edition comes with the 747, but only the premium deluxe version of Microsoft Flight Simulator lets you fly the 787. That's the one that I bought. And once you have the default 787, you only fly the 787-10 or X. The Kuro mod introduces an 800 variant, which is a shorter version of that plane. And the airplane is, I think it's more common among, you know, airlines than the 10. I think the 10 is what you might fly if you're going to be doing a transatlantic or trans-Pacific flight. I think Qantas has the 787-10, but I don't know. I think in terms of American carriers, the 787, 800, and 900 variants are way more common. I don't know what the rules of engagement are of choosing one versus another, but I do believe that the 10 is way more a rarity than the 9. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, way more rarity than the 8 or the 9. But I mean, that's not the only plane that I fly. Although for a while I flew that almost exclusively when I streamed just flying. I did a transatlantic flight in April. I didn't use VATSIM to cross the pond, but I did fly the Salty Mod 747 from France to the States, to Philadelphia. And it was roughly a 9 hour flight. And I say 9 hours because I I stepped out to go do something and I didn't realize that when I locked my computer, I paused the sim. So I was away for about an hour and I lost about an hour of flight time. I had to make that up. But otherwise, it was like an 8.5 hour flight. And I don't know if it was real time. I believe it was. And then I landed at Philly at night and shut down. And I was like, yeah, there you go. I was happy. The feeling of getting to top of descent after flying across an ocean and nearing your destination is a great feeling. The feeling of touching down after flying for about 8.5 hours is superb. Like at that point, at that point, like no matter what happens, you know you arrived at the airport. And that is just such a trip in and of itself. I'm not saying I don't like flying in the sim anymore. I'm just saying I like doing scenery development about as much as I like flying. Sometimes a bit more because it means that I'm creating something that others can enjoy or use as a destination airport. So that's where my brain's been. Oh man, I know that that sucks because I would probably be like, oh man, like literally a crash the desktop, like just as I pull off the runway. But that for me, turning final after flying for like 4, 5, 6 hours, lining up with the runway, and then suddenly my sim crashing, that's just like, bruh. That happened. That happened to me when I was flying from San Diego to Boston. Like the first like I think couple of months that the sim was out. So I turned final for 2-2 left after flying out of Ksan um, with someone else for a while on multiplayer. And then I'm lining up, and then boom. And I was just like, oh, and I was streaming it too. And it was just, it sucked. It's, it was bad. Modeling does take time. I can tell you this. When I wasn't feeling the best and I was taking, nights to create the custom beacon, it does take concentration. Yeah, yeah, I believe that, SG. Um, Sometimes what I do is I switch between Wi-Fi and hardline network internet access, and I noticed even if I plug in my Wi-Fi sometimes and it's running, when I unplug the cable, the SIM will just go, nope, bye. And it's not like a SIM crash where stuff locks up. It's like, oh, internet connection's gone. See ya. And you're like, wait, what? And all of a sudden you're done. That's no bueno. But these things happen. It's nice to know that the PMGG is state saving. That's pretty cool. I had forgotten about that. I flew a lot in X-Plane 11, and the TOLUS has state saving. So if my SIM crashed, then I could just load up, the last like state it saved 5 minutes ago, and then pick up from there. Because the thing lets you save a state virtually anywhere you want to, but remembering to save state versus being like, oh, okay, I wasn't paying attention, like, and then having to start like over. That's a bummer. I think this is good enough for me to do a few copies of this, so let me not think too much. With scenery development, you kind of have to pick your battles. Do you want to obsess down to like the millimeter, how well you're going to do things like setting up fencing? Or do you want to place things more quickly and run the chance that your fence won't look the absolute best? You get to choose. You make the rules, you set the parameters. I may catch myself complaining about the way that scenery looks from time to time, but I'll tell you, I have more respect now for people that create big airports, even tiny airports, than I did in the past. Okay, one more tweak, and then I think we should be fine. I am duplicating two at a time, and I probably shouldn't to be more precise with the satellite imagery, but at the same time, I kinda sorta don't care that much for the backside of this um, series of what am I going to say? The series of solar panels. And I think that should do it. Ugh. Well, whatever. we can tweak this one piece at a time. And then grab this piece of fence and move it in. And then we can see how close we are to getting that line done. It does take effort. It does take time. And you need to kind of I guess the phrase is you kind of need to count the cost. You need to decide whether or not that's going to be something you're going to want to do. This is simple in the sense that all you're doing is, you know, clicking buttons, moving your mouse, placing objects down, but it's also not rudimentary. Expectations on the one hand, and essentially, limitations on the other. And you kind of have to pick which one of the two you're going to favor more. At the same time, don't think too hard about it. Let's see, was it copy 42? No, there was another. There we go. Now we have some contiguous pieces chosen. We can duplicate these pieces and move them. Oops, looks like I picked too many of the same. So that's 46, 45, 45 again, and 44. All right, it's just 4 pieces. I missed that I picked the 5th one, and they're all contiguous. It's a lot easier to move them like that. Welcome back to the Fence Placement Show. Man, I'm getting tired of watching this dude place fence. I'm gonna go watch somebody else. I do not blame you. I used to hear this old phrase, like watching paint dry. But, you know, at the end of the day, when you're building scenery, it's a lot of doing very similar things. And then finally, when you get done and it's done, it's like, oh, okay, all this is ready. And then you go, okay, what else am I working on next? So I think I barely had anybody watching the first, I want to say, the first month and a half that I was doing it. And this is not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, I still get low view counts, but it is what it is. I'm not going to expect a humongous following of people, but it is nice to do. And yes, I am taking artistic liberties with the fencing, but there aren't smaller pieces of fence that I can use default fencing on. Eventually, I think I'm going to create my own custom fence and create different lengths so that you can actually have more control, so you can follow the lines in the satellite imagery a lot better than you can do with the default fence length. But such is life. I think after this, we've got one more side of this to do. Nice. Night lighting to be determined. And congrats on your first airport. Yeah, feel free to keep me informed. Night lighting is a little bit tricky. You can use street lamps. You can also use just light sources like warm or cold lights. And then what you can do is, even though they're a little bit tricky to set up, it with buildings that don't look like they have lights, you can still kind of give the illusion that they do. So you can put those light sources on corners and drape the sides of the building in light. If we're talking about using default buildings, I mean. And there we go. That's pretty good. Actually, no, it's off a bit, off a lot, actually. Hold on. That's better. A little bit borked, but not by much. And now we can duplicate this some more, and the satellite imagery will kind of catch up to me. Oh yeah, I forgot. I can just move things over with the axis tool. You can get very granular by just using one axis at a time. So 52 and 51, we'll duplicate this, and we should be able to just slide them over, kind of like you slide a closet door. And move it forward just a tad. And that's fine, and I'm not going to worry too much about that. Um, you can search for them in scenery in FS Base, and you'll have, if you search for light, you're going to see a lot of 3D light objects, but there's also going to be invisible light sources. They'll either be light cold or light warm, I think. And then you can just use those and put them aside of buildings or anything you want to have, you want to be lit up. And you can also use the light presets section of your airport. So where you see Plymouth Municipal, when you click on that and you see the properties for the airport in the property section, there's a light presets section you can use, which will allow you to define custom lights, even custom light behaviors. So instead of just having light cold or light warm, you can also create lights of different colors, lights that flash back and forth. And in one sense, it's beneficial for you to use the sim for that because things like beacon lights, for example, IRL, you're going to need to see beacon lights from a considerable distance away. And that's part of what you need to do. All right, now pick the other two again. We're going to move 4 this time. Where's the other one? There we go. We have 4 chosen, right? Good. Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Um, you'll need to play with light sources if you're going to use the built-in light rendering, the options to create things like I think they're called wigwag lights when you're flying an airliner and you're going to cross a runway and it's like a major runway. They have that orange light thing that has the lights that flash back and forth. So you can create timing so you can turn lights on and off. And I did that. I did that last summer when I was starting to. I was thinking I was going to create the Kissimmee Gateway scenery, which I still want to do, but I got busy with a whole bunch of stuff. I think this is pretty good. And there we go. We're on the corner here. We make this side, and then we have this entire thing wrapped up. Iowa Scotsman, good afternoon, friend. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Folks, if you do not know Iowa Scotsman is a friend of the channel and also streams flight simulation from time to time. Feel free to look him up if you are curious and want to learn more. We are laying fence down for some external objects. We are wrapping a solar farm and fence, and then we're going to go back to the airport a little bit. Fair warning, folks, there is a chance that I might cut this stream a little short. I don't plan on it, so what I might do is I might actually take a break in the next 5 or 10 minutes and just check up on Mrs. Digi, see what needs to be done. If there's a chance that I might need to start working on stuff like cooking dinner for her tonight or helping her with something in particular, I'll probably cut out and I might either do a quiet stream tonight or I might just continue working on this silently. I am most likely not going to be doing any streaming tomorrow. It's going to be mostly family time, actually almost entirely family time. And then I'm probably going to continue with the kind of behind the scenes scenery work to clean up KPYM. Yeah, and Eric Flight, to be perfectly honest with you, I agree. I agree. I'll be the first person to admit that I have a crummy history with deadlines. I tend to not meet them. However, the overwhelming majority of the time, the greats, the people that actually release products that are fantastic, their philosophy is extremely simple. It is always, 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 it's done when it's done. There are a few people that make extra efforts to release products on a particular schedule, and all of us like to get something on schedule. But at the same time, I would say many of us in the flight sim community understand and respect when someone says it's done when it's done. The custom objects that we're going to be cooking up to really replace some of the things that you see in the airport in general, they're going to make the scenery pop. Or at least that's the hope. So I think I have to agree. And if it does take a little extra time, it takes a little extra time. I don't plan on releasing this in November, but if I have to go into August to finish it and make it look really great, that's what I'm going to do. All right, folks, give me a bit. I need to take a break. I'm going to step away from the keyboard, come back in a minute or two. Stand by. All right, my friends, I have returned. Thank you for your patience. Let's jump right back into it. We've got just a little bit of fence to go before this entire solar farm is wrapped, and it's just default models. Eric, if you missed it, I did get rid of some of the default buildings that were sitting on the cranberry bogs, which makes this a little bit more realistic. And yeah, let's get these things wrapped and get this set so we can call this piece done. Yeah, it was kind of amusing when I was working on this, and I said, "Hey, let me dress this area of the airport up a bit, or the surrounding area a little bit." And then Eric goes, "Oh yeah, these are actually cranberry bogs. They don't have any buildings on them." I'm like, "Oh, so the computer put buildings where they weren't supposed to go," which is funny. But again, I said this before, and I'm going to keep saying this. The simple fact that we have a company that put scenery generation through an AI to create as much detail as it did, as precisely as it did, memes and all, that's an accomplishment. You think about the effort. You think about the scenery you used to fly through in sims like Microsoft Flight Simulator 98, 2000, 2002, 2004, even FSX. This is kind of on another level. It's neat to see. More authentic. And saves point 0.00000000001 FPS. So if you are that one person that frame rate is just going to make you go from 59.9 FPS to 60, congratulations. You will enjoy the scenery. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. And and again, we talked about this yesterday. There are graphic user interface editors that exist. This is a thing. Up until now, however, with maybe the exception of the old Flight Simulator X scenery modification tool, we haven't had an editor that gives you this much power, unlimited power. Sorry, that doesn't give you. I haven't seen an editor that gives you this much power and allows you to do this much while in the sim. Period. I haven't seen it. Yes, you can do potentially better things with other editors for other sims, but I haven't seen that while you were inside said sim. So there you go. Yeah, good. I think all these are part of this project, so I know where to move them when I'm done. And now we'll start picking this up. I think I'm going to do this two pieces at a time, which should be enough to wrap up the fence job here. That's good. Where are you? I tell you what, Eric, we are a long way from last November. We're a long way from me going, hey, what airport do you fly out of? Hmm, Plymouth? Okay, maybe see what I can do. And it turned it from like a weekend stream to just this saga of editing and creating more and more objects and being like, okay, we'll do this now. We'll do this now. We'll do this now. And in case you think that this concept of adding scenery should be done in a relatively short period of time. Consider this. If I read the old Instagram posts correctly, Giuseppe Designs spent, or however you call them, I apologize. They spent 3 months just on the ground aprons for Newark Liberty International Airport. Yes, it has been. It's since November of last year. And this is a project that this is my sophomore scenery release. This is just my second payware. This is just my second payware, and I have much to learn. I still have much to do. There's still a lot I need to fix over at Whiskey 94. There are probably significant, extensive improvements that I can make to the default scenery that's there, which I should do. But naturally, I'm going to want to focus on that after I get this released so that I can actually go back there, you know, make some improvements based on the lessons I've learned from this airport, which shouldn't be hard to do. I might go back there and be like, oh my word, what was I thinking? There's always more to learn. And it's like, you know, I'm trying to do my best to liberate myself from this mode of thinking that goes, you know, you're supposed to know what to do. You're supposed to be doing it like with precision. It's supposed to be perfect. Well, yeah, it's supposed to be with precision. Yeah, it's supposed to be as close to perfect as you can get it. But guess what? When you get started, you don't understand this. You just know, hey, my home airport doesn't look good. I want to fix it. So, you know, what happens if your home airport is bigger than a grass strip with like two buildings, a weather vane, and a windsock? What happens if your home airport is Plymouth? What happens if your home airport is Albuquerque International, where you got your flight lessons done, and that's going to be your first project? Well, guess what? You're going to look at that and you're going to be like, I have no clue how to get started. Oh man, what did I get myself into? And don't think that that's not what I say on a regular basis. I do. Eric, Eric and I have gone back and forth on stories more than once during the saga, and it's like, you ask yourself, like, do I literally have what it takes to build this? Don't think that developers that are working on sceneries for, FSim Studios or for Flightbeam or for FS Dream Team, don't think that those guys haven't had issues. And don't think that those guys wonder if they should be doing something else with their time. Has anybody heard from Taxi to Gate lately? The folks that created two different versions of Orlando, and I think more than a few other airports. There are some companies that aren't doing business anymore. And and that's like what happens in life. You get to a point where you might take a few seconds to survey the landscape, and you're like, I don't think this is worth my time anymore. And so you pick up and leave. But that's healthy. It's a part of the grand story. Like, maybe I'm going to be an IRL software developer for the rest of my life, or maybe this is the next stage of my career. Oh, can't imagine starting on a large airport. You and me both, pal. Oh, you want to know what? I can't. And you know why? Because I wanted one of my first airports to be Roanoke International Airport. Because I wanted to do that airport first. And guess what? I haven't done that airport yet. For a few reasons. Number one, somebody else released scenery for that airport. Number two, the more I started messing around with MSFS, the more I started realizing, hey, I need to learn more, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. How do I get this done? And It's a challenge, and you're gonna wonder, whether or not you have what it takes. That's normal. If you approached every challenge you faced from the perspective of, hey, this needs to get done right the first time, then you either have excellent intel and you are insert favorite military team that executes with advanced precision, or you're a regular human being like everybody else that questions their ability to get stuff done, and you're wondering whether or not you can actually make good on your promise. Fortunately, or for some, possibly unfortunately, scenery development has become something that I have enjoyed doing way more than I think I imagined I would. And if I did this for a living, there are certain aspects of it that would most definitely turn into a quote unquote job. Like, I need to adjust this again. I need to buy how many different Sims and develop this for all of them? Like, why? But that's the nature. That's the nature of the industry. And I am probably going to need to remake this airport as well for FS 2024 if there's any inconsistencies or incompatibilities that FS 2024 brings to the surface. There probably will be. Most likely, terrain. The way that the default engine will probably draw default terrain will probably affect the airport, at least in part. And at least in one respect, the the sim may have advancements in the software development kit that will make the jump to developing scenery for that even easier than it was for FS 2024, for FS 2020, which would be incredible. And then, sheesh, like where do you go from there? You've got technology, you've got the ability to make stuff happen. I'm very curious to see, especially from a scenery development perspective, what FS 2024 is going to mean for the big companies and the small companies. In one sense, I very much hope it levels the playing field because it's going to give guys like me a better chance to monetize on the business. Maybe you'll finally start seeing my stuff in the MSFS marketplace. I don't know. And two-faced disc, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Frustration is a part of the journey. And hello, my friend. Very good to see you. Welcome aboard. There we go. Can we do four? Can we do four? Yes, we can. All right, let's grab this and move it. That's not bad. I could have probably grabbed five, but I'm not going to do that again. There we go. Okay, so we have pretty much surrounded this with a fence. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the other gate where it is, unless, of course, you come in off the road right here too, which it doesn't look like you do. So, great. We will take this piece and probably, no, not that one. This piece, no, not that one either. What number are you? Huh, weird. Let's move them over. Okay, so there's a little bit of overlap. Let me see how I can address that. I'm probably going to play with the fence placements so they look a lot better. We're going to deviate slightly from reality here, and as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. I'm okay with things being a little bit off if it means that they look more like a unit. And there we go. So let me think. How can I make this work? Do I care about that much? That's adjusted. Or I could add one more piece and then just kind of block this off. I'll do that. I'll duplicate that so it is a separate piece that just ties everything together, even though it adds nothing to the fence. This is not required. This is probably not what exists in real life. This is just me adding a little bit of flourish, if you will. But Digi, this isn't the right type of fence or the right way this is placed. You're right. It's not. But this kind of makes things look a little bit more with it. And there we go. And what I like to do sometimes is look down the line of fences and see how they change with the terrain, which I think is pretty neat. And there you go. That's how you wrap a solar farm in default fence. Now, I don't know if these are trucks or power generators, but I'm going to add some additional scenery here just so it looks better. And now I'm going to move all of these. First off, select all these and see whether or not this is all the fence that was here. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like to me. So we're going to move all these into outside asset fencing. Where is it? There we go. So if I choose all of the fences in here, it should be the entire fence. And that's what it looks like. So great. There we go. The entire thing is selected. Wonderful. Now we can focus on adding more assets and look at the solar farm, which I think is where we are right now. Yeah, so this is the solar farm, solar panels, and I can add some additional objects here. So that is saved. And there is so much to look through, but I'm not going to allow myself to really I'm not going to allow myself to stress or be like, oh, there's so much to be done. I'm so grateful for the support system that I have, for Eric's kind of constancy and just kind of keeping me focused and saying, hey, look, this will get done when it's done. You know, take breaks, do what you got to do. I'm grateful for that. Now, let's go to scenery. Let's pick all and see if we can find a generator. Construction power generator is an FS base. Great. And we can put one down here and here. And there might be a different color as well. There's a yellow one. I'll put two white ones and a yellow one down. You got the SDK and samples installed, and you're learning the interface. You're trying to use the Alt mouse button to move the camera view, but when you release the button, it goes berserk and points the view to some totally random location. You're trying to move the camera view with the mouse. What I do is this. When you're in developer mode, when you load a scenery and you click here and you say the inspector pulls up and you say load an editor, you go from the sim to what's called developer mode, like you move in developer mode. which means you can use the WASD keys on your keyboard to translate and the numeric keypad to point where you want to go. You can still use the mouse, but I generally use the keyboard for movement to position the camera wherever I want it to go, and then I use the mouse to interact with the world. I didn't even know that using the Alt button to move the mouse was even an option. But in general, I'll use WASD keys to move the viewpoint, the numeric keypad to point the viewpoint, and then a mouse to interact with the world around me. And then I use things like rotate to set things in place. And put them where I want them to go. Okay. I'm going to assume those shadows are probably from the generators themselves, so I don't feel bad about using these construction generators or these power generators here. These are default objects. So, um, based on what I understood from releasing Whiskey 94 on Sim Market, I am not releasing the I am not distributing these models. These models are included with the base sim, which means that they can be representations of the world, and it's not something that I am. What's that called? I think it's called fair use. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to duplicate this again, and we have two generators here. Oh, you got it. You got it. I might try moving with the mouse once with Alt just to see what happens, but I'm so accustomed to using this interface. I'm grateful for that. And this is, I think, from the Oceanic update, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what this is. Where does this come from? This is technically a built-in asset in the sim, but I'm not going to cross that line with payware. I'm going to use, I consider fair use for freeware, whatever is included in the sim and not installed from a library. For payware, I go almost exclusively with just what I see in FS base, and then I create my own models for everything else. Let's put the yellow power generator down, and then we'll put it in, I think, crossways here. And I think that should do it. I'll rotate it 180 degrees so that the exhaust is facing away from these things. So none of them are heating each other up. That's just a personal preference for me. And what is left? There's probably going to be something in the middle here, and I'm wondering if there's a truck that actually either sits here or that somebody is able to service these from access panels at this point. So I'm probably going to stick a few big trucks here. Okay. Okay. And what do we think? Do we think there's an overhead light here? I don't think there is. I think it's just a truck, one or two trucks. So I'm probably going to put some vehicles here. And if I'm going to use a vehicle, I'm going to use traffic. So I'm going to See what we can do for utility trucks. Traffic, truck, black. Let me see what that looks like. Hmm. You could drive a tractor trailer out here, but I'm not sure that you would put it in the field. Give me a different truck. That's even bigger. Truck utility. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we have trucks, maybe a white utility truck or a blue. Blue or white? I like white because I think it goes with the either construction or electricity motif, if you will. Fewer polygons but sharper textures. I'm fine with that. And what else do I want? Maybe we're gonna put some equipment down. So let's do some equipment. Equipment? Do we have any equipment? These are all from Aerosoft. No, we're not using those. Not using any of that. So to avoid any confusion, let's focus on FS base and let's see. Do we have a like a bag of any kind? Not baggage truck, not garbage. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. What are these? Trash. People be littering. Garbage container, middle. Um, little? No, you're not gonna put a trash can like that out here. If anything, you're gonna keep a bigger trash container. Something like this, perhaps, but that doesn't make sense. I want like cables or power equipment. Cable reel? Ooh, interesting. We can always pretend that there's like, underground power lines. Yeah, there we go. And there you are. Just a little way to dress up the area. And I don't know what this is other than probably a truck. So I'm going to put a black truck over the shadow. Traffic, probably traffic pickup. No, not you, not you. That's not a sports car. I need a pickup truck. Traffic pickup, black. And there we are. It's almost ideal. Almost. Yeah, some of these low poly vehicles aren't bad. They get the job done. So there we go. We've surrounded an entire solar farm with stuff. And just to make it obvious that there is a road, I'm probably going to put a car here. Maybe a blue pickup truck. And put it and rotate it slightly. And put it on what looks like the road piece right about here. So there you are. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. That took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but that's okay. And now we can go back to here and possibly take a look at this. Oh, that's right. I wanted weather equipment. I have no clue what these things are. I don't know. It's neat, but I don't know what these are. I don't know if I can find any replacements for them that are default objects. I'm not expecting to. So if I look at weather, there's nothing that says weather. If I look at radar, there's nothing that says radar. Um, they are wind direction. Wind barrier fence? No. No, so these are things that probably need to get made. And the one above is the weather station. Okay. Okay. So what are these? I know these are different. Okay, but this is a fuel station. Um, Let me see what that looks like. Oh, duh. Those are the 3D meshes that you see when you pull up to a fuel station. That's just a default airport. Okay. So I need to find something which is a weather station, and I wonder if it's in any of the scenery that I have from Microsoft. So the weather station from the oceanic scenery, that's interesting. The weather station from New Zealand, or the things, they're really tiny things. I don't know what this is. That's weird. I know what that's for. This is interesting. And something else. This is from McMurdo. And weather antennas. Whole bunch of packs. While it is conceivable that these are stock objects because they're inserted by Microsoft, I don't know what the use case is for them. So I'm not going to mess around with them for now, but I know what I'm going to be doing, or I know what I'm going to be trying to model in the future. A wind tee, yes. So I need a weather station and a wind tee, and probably some blocks around it. I'm not sure what those things are, if they actually capture, if they have sensors to capture certain movements or what. But I will take a look at that this week, Lord willing. Now, there is one object here which probably needs to go. It's this, because this I believe is way higher than what the default one looks like. Or maybe it's about the same height, it's just a little bit bigger. But I'm going to take a few seconds to save my progress, build the scenery, and then we're going to take a sneak peek into my Blender so that we can see what I've been working on from the past month. That tower is the tower is horrid. So you won't miss it when it's gone, I'm assuming. Okay, okay. Roger that. Understood. Understood. And if you guys are wondering, please don't park in the reserved parking spots. Please. Thank you. There's some other stuff I have to add, but so far I've added some additional no parking signs and this, and there's other stuff I have to add as well. But we're on our way, folks. We're on our way. If there's a way that I can create a custom windsock to replace this, I probably will. It's just that this is the only way that I can render it right now. But let me log into Blender so I can show you guys what I've been working on. And let me switch my camera views. Oh, I don't have to. Dun 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 dun. It's too big for the existing view right now. So let me adjust this. Blender is too big. I'm gonna move this around a bit so you're gonna see the other camera behind it. And this needs to be smaller, way smaller. And there we go. Now I can actually move this around as needed, and bam. So welcome back to Blender, and welcome to the project that I spent the past, I want to say, month working on. This It's what's going to replace the beacon tower that you have there. And it's going to have things like stairs, um, visible metal supports, and when you climb the stairs to the very top, not that you will, you're going to have weather machines, or weather machines in the academic sense. You're going to have, radar things and a rotating beacon. I'm going to texture this beacon with some kind of basic texture map for the beacon light. I don't know yet how I'm going to plug in the beacon light itself so it can be seen from a long distance. I'm going to have to, because naturally you're going to need to see this from miles away, and those lights are designed to be seen from a considerable distance away. But there you go. Now, let me see, just for the sake of argument, what this looks like. Because, number one, I haven't put any textures on it, so I should be able to build it, rebuild the scenery, and be able to plug this into MSFS without too much trouble. So, I don't even know if I've rendered this once, so I'm going to prep it for the very first run. This is going to be what I call the smaller beacon, and I'm going to have some basic properties set up for it, and we're going to create the XML file that goes with it, and we're going to call this smaller beacon.xml. We're going to generate a GUID for it. Studio Canuck with 28 months in a row. My friend, good afternoon. Welcome aboard. Folks, if you don't know who this wonderful individual is, Studio Canuck has been blazing a trail in flight sim streaming for literally the past, 3 years now? And I am privileged to know him and to see some of the streams that he puts on. It's a great place to go to chat, to really engage in interesting conversations about flight simming and occasionally other topics as well. But please, if you haven't done so, go check out Studio Connect's page right now. Give him a follow. Great friend of the stream. And now I'm going to click Remember Export Settings, and I'm going to double check my render. There's no textures on it, so it should be done. And then we're going to place this in the scenery, and we're going to see what it looks like compared to the default beacon. So give me just a moment. I'm sorry that I'm not showing stuff. I need to find the folder. Okay. Double click it, and great. It's gonna look white, like nothing's been painted on it at all. So it's gonna be kind of hard to make out. But at the same time, I can take all of these. I'm probably gonna take the entire folder and move it to my temp folder on the same drive. And is there anything in temp right now? Okay, we did have some stuff in temp, so I'm gonna make it temp 2 because I'm lazy. Yes, I am lazy. Okay. The reason why I'm copying things over to another temporary folder is because I need to clean up the folder before I drop it into MSFS. Technically speaking, I don't have to, but it makes things a little bit easier for me when I am going to build files for the first time. Okay, so now we just have the GLTF, BIN, and XML files. And now I can take this entire folder and dump it into my actual build for Plymouth. Sit tight, folks. We can go to package sources, scenery, my airport, my model lib, and I can dump the entire folder into smaller beacon. I'm sorry, actually, it was there. And now, oh, so it's still in temp 2. That's fine. That's fine. I don't care. I can clean that up later. Great. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually render it in the sim, And here we go. Air Amric, my friend, hello. Thank you so much for saying hi. Rest well, my friend. Great to see you. Folks, if you don't know Air Amric is another friend of the channel that also streams Flight Sim and has been a friend and supporter of the channel for a while. So, rest well, my friend. Take care. Okay, we're back in the sim, and now I'm going to save, even though I didn't do anything, because I'm like that. And we're going to click on Build All. And since I just imported an object, the thing I normally do outside the sim, there might be an error or two. If that's the case, do not freak. Just try rebuilding it again. And if the same error happens again after you clear your errors, which I'm going to do if I see any, then there's probably something you have to fix in the object you just rendered. It takes a while. Okay, we got 0 errors. That's great. And we should be able to actually select it from the scenery from the actual object menu. We're going to get rid of this filter because we don't care. We're going to go to the Plymouth section and look at that. Here it comes. You guys ready? You guys ready? Are you ready for this? Boom. It has no painting at all, but this is what I'm hoping is a more accurate rendition of the tower. The beacon light does not spin yet, but now you can kind of see the size difference that exists between the two. And this is actually what's supposed to go here. Now, in terms of scale, if you put it next to an object that's already in the sim, I want to say I feel like this is actually sized correctly. Maybe we're off like, I don't know, a couple feet. But in terms of what you're going to be seeing as an individual, the steps I think are pretty chunky, but I would say it's pretty close to reality. And I think you can probably scale it up and down slightly to make it better. But there it is. If you take it in consideration versus what you have here, like, let me move this out of the way for now because I think I can select this. So if we move this out of the way and we place this here, then essentially there you go. And yeah, this is it. This is the actual placement. There does still need to be a bit of a concrete platform or a riser because it's a little bit off the ground. But there you go. There is the actual beacon. So I'm gonna, I might actually play with the pictures that I have that Eric Flight sent me just to see how accurate the placement is versus what was there before. Yeah, exactly. You were just saying exactly what I was about to say, or just did. Yes. The first, I think, run, I'm probably just going to paint over it with just like default colors. There are probably going to be some base textures I'm going to use. I might use metal or metal grating for the top floor and for the floors on the stairs. But essentially, when I'm done, what's going to happen is you're also going to see the beacon spin. I think the things on top of this little thingy spin too. I don't know. So I guess I'd have to take a look at what things like that do IRL. But if you're wondering where the time has gone and what the kind of stuff I've worked on has been, there you go. There you go. I've also worked on those buildings too, but they need a little bit of tweaking to make sure they look great. Folks, it's about 5:42. Are there any other questions that you guys have that you'd like me to answer with regards to scenery development? The old one was a World War II beacon. Wow. Much better. Abnormally high. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Well, I don't know about the abnormal part, but they seem more suited now to like, huge international airports. So I get you. Yeah, I think I might save this as is and then work on this a little bit later this week. I mean, tonight or tomorrow or something like that. I'm probably not going to be working on this tomorrow because I'm going to be spending time with family. But now you see one of the things I'm going to be focusing on as we start getting into this. Is there anything else I need to do? Well, yeah, fix this fence because this fence is out of order now that we have the actual correct um, fence placement or what it looks like in real life. I'm probably going to change this so this is more of a line. But what do you guys think? Like another 15 minutes or so? I'm gonna try to see if I can get this done in like see how far I can get in like the next like 20 minutes. They measure wind speed. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Um there is theoretically a way to just insert the light here so that I think if you set the height offset, you can actually just have that light appear from the beacon in the same spot. Nice. Nice. Oh man. Well, Texas Flyboy, thank you so much for being here and for asking questions. I Part of the reason why I'm enjoying this journey as much as I am is because there are people that are asking questions that want to learn how to do scenery development themselves, and I think it's cool to be able to extend a hand and help. Okay. Okay, so now I know why I hid that because there's a road texture that isn't supposed to exist, which does. So I might choose a different texture for this just so this isn't so prominent, but so the fake road texture is hidden. I demand you work. No break for you. That's great. That's great. I mean, by all means, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Let me do this. Let me grab this fence and now we're going to start messing around with the layout because number one, um, this needs to be different. I'm going to copy the heading. Oh, it's going to do one of those things, isn't it? That's okay. That's okay. If you see this, if this looks different to you, like if you move something and you're going to be hopping in and out of your scenery projects on a regular basis, if you move something and it looks like you made a copy of it, don't panic. Sometimes what happens is the sim, in an effort to, I don't know, do something different, it will keep certain objects placed the way they were because that's how it was when you first placed them. And I think it just takes one sim refresh, one sim reboot to get your project to look the way it's supposed to again. So I'm not going to freak out about this too much. If I have to, I can blow the fence away and render it from scratch. That's the way it's supposed to go anyway, so that's fine. Airport weather station images. Got it. Got it. Okay, we're going to take this one. We're going to move it and we're going to turn it a little bit more. And then I think we're going to start grabbing groups of those, whole groups of those, and move them into place. Okay. Then that'll put me somewhere around 6 or 6:15, and that will put me at a done state, and I will go eat some food and chill for the night. I really mean this, folks. I didn't expect very many people at all to come alongside and want to see this, but after streaming Flight Sim for so long and not getting the kind of results that I wanted, I decided I wanted to try something different. And scenery development is most certainly different. And I'm happy to have you guys along for the journey. So 31, 32, 31, 32, 31 again. So these three, what about you? Okay, yeah, yeah. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to take all of these, move them, and rotate them. And that's kind of the thing. Like I said this before. You're going to sometimes wonder if what you're doing is going to make a dent in it. One of the problems that I've had and continue to have is that I, instead of minding my own business, watch other people's scenery releases. And instead of being like, oh, hey, that's neat. How did you do this? How did you do that? How did you do this, that, and the other thing? I'll look at their scenery releases and their detail and be like, oh man, are you kidding me? They modeled the coffee machine, like, and the cups are steaming, and like people are grabbing food from the counters. Like, what's my stuff? It's insignificant. Stop yourself immediately. Their project is not your project. And what they're bringing to the table is not the same as what you're bringing to the table. Do your absolute best as quickly as possible to put out of your mind this idea that says your scenery needs to be X times better than somebody else's. Your scenery is your own. And the person that you're competing against is you. Like, understand that. When you get started as an individual and you're looking and you're wondering whether or not you're going to have the capacity to create something substantial, beautiful, that makes people want to, like, grab your scenery and install it. Understand it's probably going to take you a while to learn anything. And that's whether you build for P3D, X-Plane, or MSFS. Enjoy the process. Understand it's going to be a process. And don't be afraid of it. Learn from my mistakes for sure. I'm probably going to be, I'm probably going to be looking at airports I make, if the Lord wills, years from now and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I put these many things together by hand. Like, what was I thinking? Clearly, I'm such a noob. Yes, you're going to be a noob, and there's joy in that. If, of course, you treat it like a great adventure and you're not expecting yourself to knock it out of the park the very first time. I mean, if you do, if you have someone from FSim Studios or from, I don't know, Tropic Sim, or if you have somebody from, Dominic Designs that says, hey, I'm going to help you build your airport from scratch, and I'm going to put like 5 guys to creating the texture set that's required for you. Like, thank them profusely. But at the same time, if you want this journey to be your own and you want to learn as much as you can on your own, understand it's going to be a journey. It's gonna be a journey. But that's the beautiful thing about it. You get to set your parameters, you get to set your time, you get to set the stuff. So if you're making a scenery, instead of you being a developer for a scenery company and making a salary and stuff like that, if you do it the right way and you make your money, that's all yours. That's all yours. So that's one of the reasons why I like the idea of having other scenery devs come in here and be like, "Oh, that's pretty neat. Like, how'd you do this? Like, what'd you do this for?" Like, ask me questions. Go make scenery that's like 20 times better than mine. Go rock it. That will make me smile. That will literally make me happy knowing that I got to be a part of your journey. I mean, sure, monetary compensation always appreciated, but at the same time, if that's your journey and you wind up going to a new place and you wind up selling scenery or you wind up creating great freeware scenery that puts my stuff on notice, fantastic. That's what I want to hear that happens to you because you got the chance to actually do something meaningful. Presto coming. Presto rating with a party of 84. Oh my gosh. Presto. Ah, boa noite. How are you doing, my friend? Deus te bendição. It is good to see you. Folks from Presto PPC stream, I am DIGI Driver. I am a flight simulator enthusiast, and I actually create airport sceneries for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Um, oh, AD was playing. Now I can hear you. I was playing. Hello, my friend. Welcome aboard. Folks, if you are not following Presto PPC and you like to see playthroughs of classic and some current video games, go ahead and give Presto PPC a follow right now. Presto's a longtime friend of the channel that occasionally pops in, but I was not expecting a raid this big. Folks, I am currently working on a payware project. This is Plymouth Municipal Airport in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I've been working on this for several months, and I have some custom objects and some object placements here. What you're looking at is the main ramp or the western part of the airport where a lot of traffic can actually spawn in. You can have things like FSLTL put in actual aircraft that are flying here. You can create hangars if you're versed well in in Blender, and you can actually have buildings. Don't mind the lack of the office furniture that's here. I can check that later. And you can also create hangars where you can put aircraft. You could even potentially start an aircraft inside of a hangar, and you can create custom objects. You can create things like, for example, oh, I don't have them here anymore. It must have happened when I added the custom beacon. But you can have custom buildings. You can use stock images or buildings to create a better looking airport. And you can use this so that when you load into the airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can either start on the runway or start in one of the areas that exists. I have been working on this airport since November of last year, and I'm hoping to release this very soon. So, hello. And by all means, ask questions if you have them. I am a scenery developer. I've released sceneries on flightsim.to for areas like Missouri, outside Edmonton in Canada, and also in Oregon, and now also in Lakeview, Arkansas. So I am DigiDriver on flightsim.to if you want to go there. And yeah, yeah, I just spent the past month building this, which is basically a custom beacon. This is going to spin this part once it's done. And we're going to have, I think, a few more animations as well. This is just a base, a rough mock-up of what's going to go into the airport. And you can fly different kinds of planes in the sim. Of course, you can fly tiny aircraft like this Diamond DA-40. And you can fly much bigger aircraft like 747s, 737s, 787s, and other airliners. I just been on a kick building this airport because I'm building it for my friend Eric Flight, and I'm hoping to get this released soon. Yes, yes, you can. Yes, you can. What will happen is that the scenery object will become a sim object. You can program logic so that these doors will close at a specific time. And I'm probably going to change this hangar as well, so these are sliding doors instead of overheads. But yeah, you could theoretically make it so that when the day is done, these doors close, and that's it. You could also, in theory, create start positions inside these hangars. And so when you start or you load your plane in, this door could theoretically open for you. And then when you leave the hangar, when you're a far enough distance away from it, the hangar will close. So there you go. I have been fixing some fence placements that I've had here for a little while. So I'm probably going to take this piece of fence and kind of move it out of the way and connect it here. Sometimes the fences, they stay rendered in one spot, kind of like burn in on a monitor screen. It's okay. These things happen, but I am working on fixing this for my friend Eric Flight and for folks that also frequent the virtual USA Flying Club, which is people that fly together in the simulator on VATSIM. And yeah, this project is also for them as well because they fly out of Plymouth. I have another airport, Whiskey Niner 4, W94, which has a hangar that opens and closes based on whether or not you show or hide the aircraft yoke for default aircraft. But I've been meaning to change that so just opens and closes based on how close you are to the hangar itself. Because people want to fly different kinds of aircraft and you don't always have an aircraft with a supported key binding, which means that they won't be able to do what is required to open or close that hangar manually. So that's probably something that I'm going to work on um, eventually. But this is part of the process. I am adjusting things and making it so that the airport looks more realistic because the airports in Microsoft Flight Simulator, they are all um, the majority of them are rendered by artificial intelligence, if I understand this correctly. There are some that are rendered by individuals, but what happens is the rest of them, the computer decides where the runways go, the taxiways go, the buildings go, and then you can use the airports like that, or you can do what I'm doing, which is basically making more realistic looking buildings. This is still not a perfect rendition of one of the hangars, but basically, this is an idea. Like, this isn't something that you would see in the sim. And there are, like, multiple doors, multiple sections. The inside is just a rough render, but essentially you would have an aircraft in here, and these doors I think would probably fold open or lift up. So yeah, there you go. I am probably going to reload the sim a little bit later tonight just to make sure that those fences line up the way they're supposed to go. But yeah, yeah, I'm hoping to release this soon in the foreseeable future. I said July. I really want to try for July. That's just kind of like my mental discipline. But at the same time, there's a chance it's probably going to go to August or September. I would like to have this ready for the virtual USA Flying Club for like the Thanksgiving meetup. And yeah, this is good stuff. Thank you so much, folks, for stopping in today. I'm glad that you did. Unfortunately, I did glitch a little bit when I added the beacon. So there's some objects that aren't showing up that would eventually show up. But one of my favorite parts of the airport is the fact that you can actually see the name of the airport when you're flying overhead, which is great. And Let me just make this a little bit easier for everybody to actually see. So give me a moment. And I can, what is that? Okay, I can hide all the, I think like editing circles so it's easier for you to see things. And essentially, here it is. This is what the airport looks like when you fly overhead. You'll literally see the word Plymouth on the ground, which is great. A lot of the custom taxi work has been by hand, especially the dark backing textures. Those were annoying, but they're done, and that's great. We've extended the base taxiway so you can take off on 2-4 from back here. I might try to play around with ground textures. Otherwise, this will stay the way it is in terms of this kind of like construction work here. But the runways have been reworked, custom textured. I haven't added like touchdown marks. I might do that if I can drape them over the surface, which I probably should be able to. And then I added some stuff back to the airport, like this, which I believe helps you align the gyro in your aircraft. And we have some taxiway signs, which eventually I want to replace with custom models. And there you go. Boa noite, Presto PPC. Obrigado for the raid. This is just incredible. Thank you so much. Okay. I do also fly in the sim as well. Every once in a while on my channel, I get inside a virtual aircraft and fly, whether it's a Microsoft Flight Simulator, X-Plane, or Prepared. So I don't think I'm going to be doing that this week, although sometime, probably before my sabbatical at the end of this month, I might hop into a virtual plane like the 787-800 or maybe even the 737-600 and go flying. But it's going on 6 o'clock here, so I'm going to go ahead and start signing off and look for somebody to go raid. If you guys like flight simulation at all, I will introduce you to one or two new folks, which you might not have seen before. I am looking to see who is on right now. And I think we're going to pay this forward. I think we're going to go ahead and raid Scotty Tahati. So please stick around if you like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And let's go say hi to my friend. Folks, again, thank you so much for your time. And it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much again to Presto PPC.